Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and you are here with Division 1 of the Zoom Racing League. We are live in Imola at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo and Dino Ferrari. It's a 3-mile track with 19 turns, 10 to the left, 9 to the right, only one DRS zone, and the speed trap for some reason right before a corner. It's really strange to put it there, but great historic track. This track has been around, originally built in 1953. It was redesigned in 1972, and it's hosted Formula One races and events since 1962. It's one of the few circuits on the calendar that runs anti-clockwise, and it was formerly known as the home of the San Marino Grand Prix. It's been the site of major crashes in 1987, 1989, 1991, 1992, and most famously, it's known for the death of Ayrton Senna. Take a quick look at our driver standings. Currently, Travis Robinson with the lead and the fastest lap last week with 36 points. Duncan McCamick in P2. Joel Guron in P3. So a lot of Honda power up front. Razor P4 and Jack Fletcher from the Red Bull team rounding out your top 5. Looking at our constructors, well, it's a lot more Honda power. 56 points for the Red Bulls, 53 for AlphaTauri. Mercedes in third with 30. Most wins, most podiums, most poles, most DNFs. Sort of irrelevant because it is still the first week of the season, but the championship context, really strong start for Honda. And I am here with somebody who had a somewhat forgettable race last night, but is hoping to make things a whole lot better. And Big Mama Frank of Mercedes Division 2 is here. You saw this track last night in mixed conditions. And what are these drivers in for here in qualifying?
Well, the thing for this track in qualifying is, first off, you can't get very many laps in on these tires. Unlike on Silverstone, where the tire wear isn't too bad, you won't be able to get more than maybe 2 laps on a set of tires in one session, unless you really want to be, taking that penalty of time with the tire wear. I think the other frustrating thing about this track is because it's so short, and because the pit lane comes out right in the middle of the racing line. The traffic can be really, really hit or miss on this track. So people have to watch out for who's coming out of the pit lane when they're trying to start their hot laps.
Understood. Having a little bit of issue with you. I'm going to turn you up just a hair. Stand by and we'll see if that helps a little bit. Yuki, let me know if that helps out. So yeah, so it's a really fun technical track. It can be really tricky, but at the same time, it can be very rewarding when you get things right, especially through the chicane. That's one that, as we actually see, we're on board with Pilon right now as he runs wide through the first turn of Ravazza, and we're going to see him through this. Oh, I'm sorry, that was through the chicane. He went wide. So a little deep. Tires weren't quite warm yet. Brakes a little bit cold, but now he's coming through Ravazza, and he's going to go ahead and start his hot lap. Turn 1 right here, the Tamburello chicane can be very tricky for drivers to get right. You want to take a little bit of curb as you go through, little curb, and he invalidates already. So it's the thing with the curbs, you got to be very, very careful. If you tuned in to our Wake Up with ZRL on Saturday morning, that was one of the first things that we showed was what a terrible, terrible driver I am. The first clip we showed, thanks to whoever shared it, they decided that it was very important for everyone to see just how bad of a driver I am. And trying to find Jack Pemberton on track here. It looks like he'll be the next one to be able. Now he's actually on an outlap as well. So I don't know who's close to setting a time.
There's a lot of traffic in the first sector still, and I think a couple of them are on. I think Tom is on a fast lap right now, and I think he's the leading lap right now.
What a local yellow. All right, there's Tom. Yep, Tom is on a flyer. He has not invalidated yet, but he's coming up on about 5 cars that could potentially get in his way if they're still trying to get their tires and brakes into the window and trying to build that gap that you want to build in qualifying. That's one of the things that's difficult about this track is it is it can be a difficult track to get yourself some space because it is a very, very quick lap. We have drivers that are, I'm just going to turn myself down. Yuki, thanks again for the information. We have drivers like Razor Center right there goes a 1:14.8. Joel Garon actually out of the session already. Where did he lose it? He looks like he lost it out of Ravazza. And we'll try to grab Travis maybe coming around. Travis is still in the pits. One of the Mercedes, Victor Diaz, potentially is going to come by there, and the car's already been cleared. So a couple of quick times on the board already. Both McLarens setting good times under 116. Razor with a 114.8. That's going to be tough to beat. That's a really quick time, but we've got some time here for the track to rubber in and for these drivers to make some improvement.
Jack Pemberton set purple sector 1. He's in sector 2 now, going towards Aqua Minerality.
Aqua Minerale.
That's what it is, yeah.
So the good news for our Division 1 drivers, as I look over the weather, it does look like there's a slight chance for rain, but other than that, it's pretty warm track temperatures. However, as we go through the session, by the end of the session, we are going to be looking at anywhere from 70 to 90% rain. So those last 10 laps or so, we may have some wet weather, just depending on how safety cars and other situations expose themselves over time. Damian dealt with a really slow time of a 132. I wonder if he
must have
got held up.
He must have aborted this lap, is my guess.
He's still
Jack
right
with
now.
a 15.3.
Good lap by Jack. Still right on board with Victor Diaz. Figured we'd take the whole lap with him. Not a great showing for Victor last night. He was still in the top, or last week he was still in the top 6, but I know he wasn't happy with that. Jack Pemberton, I know, also wasn't pleased with his results. Let's see, Ranger went a 115.3. Hunter J 115.7, and Victor jumps all the way up to P3 with a 115.3. So good lap from Victor. There's my driver to watch. I was trying to find Ian just now and I missed him, but Ian is definitely going to be our driver to watch with a 114.579. Ian's always super quick, especially in quality. This kid is a time trial freak. He is always pinging us first thing Monday morning. Hey, update time trials, because he's usually right at the top. So just like Johannes Ludwig in Division 2, the number 1 Alpine driver in both divisions, super quick driver and really good at time trials. And the difference between the two is Ian has to learn just a little bit more racecraft, needs a little bit of help in that area, and he will be he'll be top of the timesheets in the races soon enough as well.
Yeah, Peter Giordano just said purple sector 1 also.
All right, let's jump on board with Peter then. Watch him finish out his laps. He comes into sector 2 through through Piratella, and then he's going to head through Aqua Minerale to the Varianta Alta, which I think means the high chicane, because you do go uphill to that chicane. Takes his chicane beautifully. Nice little cut on the right side, but did not invalidate. Makes it easy to open up the left turn on the chicane. Down towards the speed trap into the DRS zone. He has used about half his battery already, so it'd be hard for him to go push with that low battery, but we've seen him do it before, and he is going to come across the line. Didn't get much of a slipstream from the car that dove into the pits, and Peter's going to go at about a 115.4, 114.9. So he actually goes. So we got an Alpine 1.3 right now with the Razor split in the Alpines. Next across the line looks to be a Haas. Will Graham is actually starting his hot lap now. So I don't know if he had an issue and was kind of waiting for folks to get across, but he's going to have a nice clean track in front of him until McLaren exits the pits. So hopefully that McLaren kind of trundles along and lets him get by, and won't be any issue there down the straight. And so we'll see how that goes now. We'll jump on board. McLaren
Travis
tucks out of the way.
Robinson is on his first hot lap.
Okay, we'll jump over and take a look at Travis real quick. And Travis is going to run into a little bit here at the end of, or at the beginning of sector 3, a little bit of traffic in front, but he may actually get a little bit of a tow as he approaches the Haas and Ferrari through the 2 Ravazzas. Nice and clean. He's not invalidated. The Haas jumps out of the way, so he won't get the benefit of the slipstream. And so the Ferrari punched a little bit of a hole in the air, but not good enough for the top spot, but it's P5 for Travis Robinson. So sub 115 is where you want to be right now. If you want to be in that top 5, top 10, of course, we'll have to start the race on the tires that they set their time on. So far, it looks like everyone is going for the soft tires because they know it is going to be a fast race. And honestly, the medium, soft, medium, if you're going to do a 2-stopper, is probably a good strategy. But I think a lot of these drivers are going to go soft, medium, or soft, hard.
Yeah, in these 50% races, it's so hard to just kind of greed for the 1-stop. You know, you just really want to do that 1-stop because you just hate losing all that time in the pits. Especially on a track like this where overtaking is difficult, the only reliable place to overtake is just down the pit straight. So it makes trying to do something like a two-stop really difficult, because if somebody doesn't do a two-stop, they do a one-stop, then you just might get stuck behind them or stuck in traffic behind.
And that is never a good thing, especially on a really fast track like this. That any kind of traffic just we got a localized yellow. Looks like maybe a Bob Loblaw. Yeah, it looks like Bob lost it there. Can't tell if he got out of the way or if he lost it there at the chicane. But we got a local yellow there, and looks like he's making way for the Aston Martin of Hunter J to get through. Hunter invalidated his last lap, so he's recharging that battery. He's going to go around for another push lap. So we'll go over our top 10 real quick. Ian Krager, Razor, Peter Giordano, Duncan McCamick in fourth, John Pelon, Travis Robinson, the other John from Canada, John Ranger in P7, Damian Doe in P8 with a nice lap of a 1:15, and Victor Diaz and his teammate, the other Mercedes, Jack Pemberton, round out your top 10. As Bronson Stafford goes back into the pits, he set a 1:16.3. Interesting side note, as both Ferraris actually go into the pits, is Bronson Stafford was actually talking to us in the chat earlier, and he was having issues with his wheel and was wondering whether or not he might be able to do something with a keyboard and mouse. That's right, folks. There is an outside chance Bronson Stafford is actually racing in Division 1 of the Zoom Racing League on a keyboard and mouse, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the Ferrari garage to see if that is actually the case. Looks like Duncan may be getting ready to set another time here. Into the pits he goes, as is my luck most of the time. Jack Fletcher yet to set a time as he comes through the two Ravazzas. He's 107 right now, so he's on about a 1:16 pace if I had to guess. And I would have guessed almost right. He went a 1:15.4, good enough for P11, still not in the top 10. So if things hold as is, he will have his choice of tires to start the race. I don't think that's what he was going for, but sometimes that is just how the cookie crumbles. Trying to see who the next car across is going to be. Is that Damien going for another lap? It is. Damien's going to go for another lap here. And he starts his flyer down towards turn 1, and lucky for him, a lot of room in front, no traffic to hold him up, not a lot of pressure from behind. Only problem is he and his teammate haven't set up any kind of tow, so Damien's going to have to improve just a little bit if he wants to stay in that top 10, because the rest of the guys are going to be coming fast and furious here in the last 6 minutes of quali.
Speaking of tows, the Mercedes might be just setting that up right now. They're pretty close to each other. Oh no, Jack goes into the pits. Nope.
Jack actually improved on that lap and moved up to P8 out of P10. So looks like they may have made the tow work there. As Victor's not going to start his lap. So yeah, I think they may have set up a tow and just inverted the cars. And now Victor's going to get to go out for his hot lap, but he's not going to have the benefit of the tow from his teammate. Let's jump on board with Pelon as he comes across the line. Burning through all that ERS, goes a 1:14.8. That moves him up to P3. So big move there from the French Canadian driver. He's going to be very happy about that time with his former teammate there in P2. So they're going to be starting on the grid diagonal from one another on the finishing out the second row and finishing out the first row and starting off the second row. So you can split the Razor and Pelon duo, but they will always find a way back to one another. Peter Giordano just beats his teammate by a 10th and puts it on pole right now. So our two-time defending champion, new to the Alpine team, was running Aston Martin for the last 2 seasons, puts it on pole. Provisionally, of course, things can still happen. We can still have an amazing lap from a Travis Robinson, a Duncan, a Jack Pemberton. Looks like Zebra Strike has moved up into the top 10 and moved Victor Diaz down to P11. Victor will have a tire choice if that remains.
Victor is up 4/10 going past the second sector.
That would put Victor up into about P7 if that's the case. And he goes P8, so good lap from Victor there. Right on board with Bronson Stafford. We'll kind of watch his inputs and see if it looks like he's modulating as though he's using a throttle pedal and not a keyboard. There's not a lot of jerky motion there. Zebra Strike has a 5-second penalty with a collision with Hunter J. Like to see where that happened. That's a really strange thing to happen in qualifying. It looks like Joel Guron has left the session. I wonder if maybe he's having issues, and that's what caused him to to leave the session earlier. Looking through the chat, no indication there from the Honda garage. So hopefully we'll have a chance to talk with somebody from AlphaTauri. See who's down there in the Red Bull chat. Shaggy Muffin, we might be able to try to pull him or Spinini up and get a chance to talk to them and see what's going on with the AlphaTauris.
I wonder if he just was trying to get out of the way and just got out of the way too late.
Hey, is Toto Rivas?
Hey, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, one of my favorite drivers from Division 3. He also broadcasts for Division 2. Tonight, he is doing the job of a race engineer. OG, how are you, sir?
I'm good. You know, we're having a little bit of issues there in the AlphaTauri garage. You know, Joel's having a little bit unstable connection that led to him disconnecting, but as far as his DNF not being able to participate in the qualifying, it was just an unfortunate incident. Something we've ran so many sims throughout the week, and just like 1 in a million chance that he hits the wall a little bit weird and it causes the DNF.
So was it similar to what we saw in the Division 3 race where we had both Mercedes crash out by being merely inches from a wall and touching their throttle? Was that same sort of issue?
It's similar to that. It was just like basically a freak accident. You're on the throttle basically how you normally would, and it just causes a freak accident where you touch something like it's never happened before. It was super bizarre, and we're hoping to avoid that in the race.
All right, well, thanks for stopping in. Joel's a great driver, and we know that he has had some issues before. We did poorly in qualifying, and he had to attempt to do a first to last challenge, so we assume he'll be going long on his first stint to try to make a bunch of those places up, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. We're obviously weighing, with the weather, we're weighing so many different strategies with both Duncan and Joel. At the start of the next session, we'll probably get a better idea what the weather's going to be like, and we'll probably make our decision there.
All right, OG, thanks for stopping in. We'll try to talk to you again once the quality session concludes and we get into the race. So thanks for stopping by. I got to tell you, folks, if there's one thing that I am really, really good at, it is jumping to a car that is pulling into the pits. I just did it 3 times in a row. It's like Damien's on a hot lap. We've got a yellow flag for a Haas, potentially of Jason Pelter. No, it'll be his teammate Will Graham. Don't know if Will had a bit of a moment there at the end of Sector 1. He is on a hot lap. Joe Garon in and out of the session again, so not great things for the Honda gang right now. Is Zebra Strike finishing a lap?
Travis Robinson's finishing a lap now. He was 2/10 up at the end of Sector 2.
See what Travis can do. He was our pole sitter last year, and he goes P3. So Alpine, Red Bull, McLaren are your top 4 right now. Razors in the pits, Pilon, Damien, Duncan, all on outlaps, trying to improve. So Peter Giordano's 14.3, I think, is probably about as good as it's going to get. So we got 1 minute left in quali. What can these guys do? And that's Jack Pemberton, blah, blah, blah.
Ian Krieger just set purple Sector 1. So.
All right, let's go look at our hot lap champion and see what he can do. He's got space in front of him, so no traffic, nobody behind pressuring him. Not that anyone really is gonna as quick as he is, but Ian Krieger, the young driver, really talented here, really talented GT3 driver, trying to put that thing on pole and best his teammate, and we'll see what he can do here. He's up almost 2/10 on his lap, which would put him just ahead of Peter Giordano. As he comes down through Ravazza, he's got to keep it nice and tight on the entrance. Go ahead and upshift 1. Easy throttle modulation. Zebra Strike has retired from the session. Doesn't look like it was on track, though. I think he just was done. And Ian Krieger does actually put it on pole with a 1:14.325. So, with less than a minute left in quali, is there anything anyone can do at this point? My money is on Ian Krieger starting on pole as the session timer is officially ended. And a couple more times we'll get set. Looks like Tom is going to be next across the line. And 1:15, oh, he had invalidated, so no time there for Tom. Bronson Stafford is the wrong Ferrari I need to be looking at, and I just missed it. I'm so sorry. Bob blah blah just went P8, moved himself into the top 10, finally set a good valid lap, the only lap time that he set of the session, and he puts it P8.
Jack Fletcher on his final hot lap. He's 2/10 up. He lost his rear going into Aqua Minerale, so
oh, he's invalidated again. Yeah, that can be really tricky. The chicane can be really tricky. So it looks like the Haas of Jason Pelter, who's currently sitting P10, will be our next person to set a time. He's down on his time. He's down a full 7/10. I don't think we're going to see anything else from him. Looks like Damian Doe getting a message here from Zebra. Got a 5-place grid penalty for... Well, I had a notice here for just a second. 5-place penalty for getting rear-ended by... Okay. Well, that is very interesting. The stewards will need to take a look at that and see exactly what happened. So we have all of the drivers have now crossed the line. So Ian Krieger, P1, Peter Giordano, P2. It is an Alpine front row lockout. Travis Robinson puts it third in the Red Bull. Razor Senna, P4 in that McLaren. John Pilon, his former teammate and best training buddy ever, has gone P5. Damian Doe in the Williams P6. Duncan McCamick, AlphaTauri in 7th. Bob Loblaw and Jack Pemberton round out your top 9, followed by 10th Jason Pelter, the next row. Tom Victor Diaz, Zebra Strike, and John Ranger will share the next row. Will Graham, Jack Fletcher, Michael Scott, Hunter J, Bronson Stafford, and the only man not to set a time because of connection issues is Joel Guron. So there is your top 10. Hey, folks, while we take this quick break to get ready for quali, go get yourself something to drink, some tater chips. Tell the kids to go ahead and lay back down because we know they're already back up. And we will get ready for quali. And when you come back, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit us up in the comments. Tell us what you think about quali. Was there any surprises there? Is there anything you're hoping to see in the race? We'll see you back in just a few minutes. All right, well, we're waiting for Joel Guron to reconnect. Were there any surprises for you there in qualifying, Big Mama Frank?
I think one thing that was amusing me a little too much were the fact that all the marker boards were destroyed, all the turns, and that didn't happen in the other in Division 2 or 3.
So
I guess people were just a little desperate to try to dive out of the way of people's hot laps.
So was that, or was that strategery? Because I know some drivers like Adam Baguette Klein has a tendency to do that, and some other sims, he loves to take out marker boards to mess with people. It's one of his favorite things.
What an animal. And he just turns on the racing line. Hey, you can't. You don't have marker boards anymore.
That's exactly right. So we've got about 30 seconds here. So if you're watching, make sure you like and subscribe. We're trying to put out more and more content. We should have a new Revis Tech Talk starting this week. It was supposed to be last week. Things got a little crazy. We didn't get a chance to do that. And the man sitting in P2 right now, Peter Giordano, is scheduled to join me as we start to talk about aerodynamics and understanding how aerodynamics affect not only the cars in game, but the real life cars, and kind of help expand your knowledge of how all of this works. Saturday mornings, it's Wake Up with ZRL. We'll have all of the team principals here, and it looks like we are about ready for the formation lap. So Ian Krieger from Peter Giordano, from Travis Robinson, Razor John Pilon, Damian Doe, Duncan McCamick, Bob Loblaw, Jack Pemberton, Jason Pelter, Tom, Victor Diaz, John Ranger, Will Graham, Jack Fletcher, Michael Scott, Hunter J, Bronson Stafford, and Zebra Strike, unfortunately, with the 5-place grid penalty down in P19. Joel Guron, let's actually jump on board with Joel and see if he's ghosted, because if he is, that can be an issue for drivers, because even when a driver disconnects and isn't able to reconnect, you still actually have to deal with their car on track, and you can get the effects from the dirty air. However, it can also be an advantage because you also can pick up the DRS from them.
He is actually ghosted right now.
So tire strategy.
AI driver.
So tire strategy, it looks like Tom, Victor Diaz, and Michael Scott, and Zebra Strike electing to start on the mediums. AWS tire strategy says soft to hard or medium to hard. Didn't have very many hard runners in the Division 2 or 3 race, due mostly because of the weather. But interesting strategy. This is one of the few track where the hards can actually be good. Got some information from the Mercedes garage earlier today. Jack Pemberton was setting laps on the hards and actually said they're not a bad race tire, which is really surprising. And I guess it all comes down to what compound Pirelli is actually running for those hards, if it's the C4 or C5.
I don't even think this game actually simulates that, does it?
I don't know. I just wanted to pretend like it did. I mean...
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I think in these races, because everyone is so worried about the interval of the car in front of them, that they want to drive on the lightest compound or the softest compound they currently have available. So no one ever wants to use softs or hards unless they have no other choice. I mean, you saw that in the last 2 races. It was either one stop, soft to medium, medium to soft, or 2 stop, where you saw soft, medium, soft. But the majority of everybody was just going 1 stop, even though this track is probably better suited for a 2 stop, or at least using your hards.
All right, so the grid is formed and we are about to go underway. Green lights on, green flag racing. And can these guys keep it nice and tight here on the start? And we are 5 lights on, 5 lights out, and we are underway in Imola. Let's go racing in Italy. Good start from Ian Krieger, just absolutely pulls away. Peter pulls over to block things off one, so those two are going to try to get a really nice start here. Tom losing a couple positions here at the beginning. Got a few little driver changes. Nobody seems to be stopped on track. Jack Pemberton up 3 spots. Victor Diaz up 2 spots. Will Graham up a spot. So Ian and Peter leading away the field from Travis Robinson, Razor, John Pelon, and Jack Pemberton. Jack has now lost a couple of spots, and we do have a yellow flag for Jack Pemberton is off the track. He appears to be ghosted, no damage, so he will try to get that thing going again. So what was a really great start ended up really poorly for Jack Pemberton, and he's dropped all the way back to P20.
A lot of contact between Pelon and Razor going into turn 1 also. Pelon got pushed off the track, but he was able to recover. Oh, and Ian Krieger spun off.
Ian dropping a lot of places. Let's try to grab him real quick before he disappears on us. All the way down to P18 now for Ian. That's going to be very disappointing from the lead of the race all the way back to the back. So Jack Pemberton says, thank you very much. Damian Doe's also lost some spots. Joe Garon has made up 5 spots. He is all the way up in P15. So Ian Krieger with the first to last of first challenge underway.
Wow, I'm not sure if he had damage because he spun and hit his rear tires on the wall, so he may not have actually broken his wing.
Take a peek over here at our telemetry tool. It does not appear that he has. Zebra Strike does have damage to his front wing. It's minimal, but he may think about pitting after a few laps, and he actually does go into the pit. So Zebra Strike already took a 5-place grid penalty, and now he is having to deal with a broken wing as well. So see if he goes onto the hards here and try to extend this first stint. Zebra actually went to a set of softs, so he's going to try to go fast and make up some of that time.
Not a bad idea, just trying to hope and pray for a safety car.
So I'm not getting any timing intervals yet as we have another yellow flag, hopefully just a localized. That's Joe Garon. Joe Garon is around back at the back. Doesn't appear to have any damage to his wing, but it does appear that Joe is in control of the car and no longer his AI. So that's unfortunate. It may just be the time that he got back in. Car just decided to take a little spinneroo on him.
Maybe. He did have it. It did look like he had connection issue. Somebody else spun out of Aqua Mineral again.
It's like Bronson Stafford down in P18.
Oh, a collision. Hunter J ran into, it looks like, Jack Fletcher.
And Hunter J dropping a lot of spots here now on a P16 off in the grass. Another yellow for Sector 2, Sector 3. That looks like that was Bronson Stafford having a moment back there. No indication that he's broken anything, so hopefully he can get it back going again. Let's jump back up front. DRS is enabled, so Razor Senna next time around is going to have the DRS on Travis Robinson unless Travis can start to build that gap. It's 6/10 now as John Ranger in P10 overtakes Will Graham for that position. Ian Krieger moving back up through the field. He was down to P19, P20. He's already back up to P13, so he is driving like a man possessed at this point. He's got a lot of ground to make up.
He does, but he's doing a really good job so far. What'll be important here is to see if he can catch those mediums, because the mediums should be falling back from the soft runners at some point. I mean, in the first few laps. So if he can't get through them quickly, then he might be stuck behind them for a while.
So keeping an eye on P3 and P4 right now because they're going to be the ones up front with the DRS. There is a gap from P2 to P6. Victor Diaz will be making up the second train of the DRS. Jason Pelter is going to be wanting to get around Victor as quickly as possible here with the DRS. And so for the first time in the race, we're going to see the DRS open up for the leaders as Peter Giordano leads them around the line. He has almost just enough gap on Travis Robinson as they go through the DRS detection zone. Gonna ride on board with Travis. Watch that DRS flap open wide up, and they are going to be flying up to Peter Giordano, trying to close that gap.
Back in P8, we have Jason with DRS behind Victor. He's got him here.
Easily through, gets that move done, and there's not much Victor could have done there. He was at the mercy as Hunter J actually comes and sets the fastest lap. We're gonna assume that he had, we got Zebra Strike having just a miserable race. He's spun it down there in Aqua Minerale. Yeah, it's going to be a big time makeup drive for him. It's you got to cool down and refocus yourself after the grid penalty, the bad start. And Zebra Strike's a good driver. I'm glad to have him as part of the Mercedes team, but he's got a lot of work to do. Travis Robinson has now actually broken the DRS range for Razor. So Razor with a lot of work to do here because he is going to lose that on the straight to John Pilon if he does not stay within that 1 second. So he's got to push hard here, but also be a little smart at the same time.
I think he's losing in just the last second. He might dive bomb the corner. Oh, he's got it. Oh, Pilon's losing it now.
As they come through the speed trap, through Ravazza, now through the DRS detection zone. Pilon has actually lost. Pilon will actually not have it. So let's jump on board with Razor Senna. Let's see that open up. He has the flap open and no flap open on the Alfa Romeo. So that is bad news for John Pilon as he's now going to fall back from the top three. But Razor's got to be careful he doesn't lose out to Travis Robinson here. Travis right on the back of Peter, and he's going to be putting all kinds of pressure on him. And Peter knows the next couple of laps, it's going to be the same thing. And Travis is just going to keep creeping up and creeping up and creeping up.
A lot of battles in the top 6 right now. We also have Duncan right behind Pilon, who's yellow flag in the last sector.
It's like
Bronson went off.
Yeah, Bronson doesn't appear to have damage. Now he does have a slight bit of damage, so he's going to go in and change that. Probably throw on a set of mediums because those soft tires, and they get hot, it's hard to get the heat back out of them. So not a great start for Bronson, but he's a quick driver. He has time to recover here with 28 laps to go.
Pilon losing a lot of time to Razor in front of him. I think Duncan's going to get him really easily on the straight here. Ooh, another bad exit for Pilon.
Pilon having a lot of trouble there.
Looks like Duncan
Is that Victor that went off? No, looks like Jack Pemberton's had another issue back there in the back, and he was slow. Lost a couple of spots there. But here we go. Travis Robinson, let's see what you can do with DRS this time. He is within 0.4 of a second. He was almost 0.5 last time around. He closed that gap up to 0.1. He's actually closer here. Goes to the outside, and he's going to swing it around outside. 3-second penalty for Zebra Strike. Travis Robinson inherits the race lead, and he is going to do his very best to run away from Peter. And Razor is starting to look ahead and think, hey, I got to keep up with these guys, or I'm going to lose out big time here. Duncan McCamick able to hold off John Pilon. Pilon not quite as quick. Ian Krieger picks up a 3-second penalty, and that's not what you want as you move through the field. Although he did pick up a spot there, and you wonder if he got the penalty going off track to pick up that spot. We didn't catch it here live. So we got a Haas around of Jason Pelter. No. Now it is Jason Pelter.
It's Jason. His tires are cooked. He just
Razor has left the session, so I wonder if he's having connection issues. The Brazilian driver actually moves up into P2 as he goes offline. Oh, Travis Robinson has had a moment. Travis Robinson has gone off. Yellow flag for Travis Robinson, and good news for Victor Diaz, Bob Loblaw, John Pilon, and Duncan McCamick. They all moved past him. So Travis Robinson was our race leader, had a moment, dropped down to P7. And now he gets passed by Tom with those hot tires. Does he have damage? Travis does have damage to his front wing. He's going to be slow, going to have to come in and pit early for those mediums.
This is a perfect opportunity for Peter just to pull away. Since Razor, he's still disconnected. Yeah, he is. So he should be driving pretty slow.
And Duncan should take this spot pretty easily from him as he's closing that gap up to 0.3 of a second. Travis is in the pits. Let's see what kind of tires he puts on as he's going to drop. Imagine he was all the way in the lead of the race. Beautiful pass on Peter, and now he is P14. Travis going to the hard, so Travis is going to try to extend this as long as he can and hope for a safety car. Bad news for him is I don't think we're going to get one. Damian Doe, Jason Pelter also into the pits. Neither of them would. Oh, Damien did have damage to his wing, so he's going to have to get that repaired. So unfortunate for him. Not how you want to start it, but looks like pretty good work so far from the Williams team. They've got the nose on. Gonna lock it down. Wheels are on. He's back out and only lost a couple of spots there.
Looks like Razor has to rejoin the race, so we'll be as free for Duncan in this coming pit straight here.
Oh, right on board with Duncan. I've lost most of my timing again, so I'm not real sure what the intervals are, but Duncan's going to have the DRS, and if I remember correctly, Razor will not, as they enter the DRS detection through the second Ravazza, and we are going to be on board with Duncan. He's fully on the battery. DRS is wide open, and he is going to be a sitting duck, as Razor said now. Look at that gap, just dropping, 3 tenths, 2 tenths, 1 tenth. He's going to send it inside. The opposite of Travis Robinson's move early and easy on the brakes. Take a little bit of curb here. Be careful not to hit this curb because that's the Revis killer. Back on there, and now he is hunting down a Peter Giordano. Nice move from Duncan McCamick to move up into P2.
Elon's done a good job recovering from the shaky moments. Oh no, a Mercedes went off.
Looks like the Mercedes of Victor Diaz over in the grass and ghosted. Rejoins as carefully as he can. And luckily, he's got a little bit of a gap to Joel Guron behind him. Let's actually check in with Joel and see if he is still a ghost or if he's actually driving. Looks like he's still driving. He looks solid to me. So Joel trying to do the recovery drive. What's happened to Ian? Ian doing the first to last to first challenge, already back up to P8. So Ian doing a lot of pushing. He's using a lot of batteries. Only got 10% remaining, but wants very badly to close that gap to John Ranger and to get DRS very soon. He's got 3 tenths to try to make up through here through the end of Sector 2 and part of Sector 3. And Ian's just about quick enough to do it. So John Ranger, keep your eyes on Tom, but keep one eye on the mirror.
Victor did have damage from his moment, so he'll have to go in this lap.
So Ian will not have the DRS this time around, which is bad news for him because Ranger does have it, and he's getting the slipstream plus the ERS plus the DRS. So it looks like another McLaren going to be dropping a spot here. This time it's the McLaren of Tom. John Ranger, our other French-Canadian, moves up into P6. So you got an Alfa Romeo in P4, P6. They're looking to have a huge recovery from what they dealt with last week in Silverstone. It looks like Joel Gron and Victor Diaz both into the pits. Victor's off the mediums. Wonder if he's going to put on a set of hards, which he does. Replaces that front wing. Joel Guron on a set of softs. We'll see what he does here with his tires. Goes to a set of mediums. Pilon is starting to close up the gap. Oh, big news if you're a Razor right there. Duncan McCamick picks up a 3-second penalty. Pilon sees that as well, and the two of them, the old teammates, the old training buddies, as Pilon goes around, oh no. Just disaster for Alfa Romeo. Those tires are going to be super high. He's got to be very careful. He's going to lose the spot here to his teammate. He's going to drop several spots here. That promotes Ian Krager up to P7. So Ian Krager, in the matter of about 4 laps, first to last, up to P7. So we'll see if he can hang it on there. He and Peter have got to be talking right now about strategy. Got to be careful here. Who's going to pit first? Because they're starting as they get closer and closer. Peter doesn't want to wear those tires out, but he also doesn't want to be so easy on him. He lets Duncan in. Looks like Bob Loblaw is going to go into the pits early here. He has 8 laps on the softs. They probably could have gone a little bit longer, but you got to assume as fast as D1. Jack Pemberton, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Not a great showing for Mercedes.
Pemberton and Pilon just ran into each other going into the pit lane, so I think that's why they got the penalties.
That is not a good look, as Ian Krieger is now up into P6. He will have DRS on John Ranger next time by, but John will have it on Tom next time by. So right now, McLaren leading the Mercedes power in a P3 and a P4. So we've got an Alpine from a Honda-powered AlphaTauri, from 2 Mercedes-powered McLarens, a Ferrari-powered John Ranger up in P5, and then Will Graham down in P9 is the other Ferrari power. Hunter J and Michael Scott up in P7, P8. They both had a couple of issues and had a couple issues last race for the Aston Martin boys, and they're looking to make a big recovery here this week and keep Papa Rivas happy.
The significant thing in terms of Ian's race and the rest of the leaders is the large gap between Tom and Razor right now. 8 seconds, and he's still on softs. If he was on mediums and he can go softs later, it wouldn't be too bad. But it's going to be a really hard gap to close towards the end of the race, at least without a safety car.
Oh, John Ranger is within 3 tenths of Tom, so Tom is going to have to defend for his life here because John's got a lot of battery. He's got the DRS, he's got the slipstream, and that McLaren is one cooked goose. Hunter J picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Unfortunate for him, he's had a good showing up to P8 already in the Aston Martin.
And Ian's right behind Tom also, so Tom's going to get taken again on this lap too.
If Tom's not careful, he's going to lose that spot before they even get around to the DRS zone.
Yeah, he looks like he's struggling a lot, which is surprising considering we're a lap 11, soft versus mediums. Mediums usually have the advantage at this point, but Ian might be doing a good job saving his tires. Yeah, you just have to give it up.
Yeah, Ian threw
Really
very
bad
easily. Yeah, Tom did not put up much of a fight there, so I wonder if he's got a little temperature in those tires that he's not liking. It's one of the things that we do in the Mercedes training sessions is we try to take some time to do some laps together and look at tire temperatures and look at the tire wear and try to even everything out and use good sound engineering strategies. But yeah, Tom goes wide there at the chicane, picks up a 3-second penalty. So it's penalties galore right now. See what Razor Senna does. He's got to be. Oh, he still has a little fake going into the pits and decides to stay out. So we'll see if his teammate Tom comes in as they come through Avatsa. Tom's lost 2 spots there, only 10 laps on the medium, so they should last a lot longer than that. Ranger goes into the pits. He'll try to get off those soft tires. So a couple of these soft runners are saying that's 10, 11 laps is just enough, and I'm ready to swap out the shoes.
I mean, with Ian's pace right now, he can probably stay out for another 2 or 3 laps. If he can do that, then he can definitely go on mediums and do 1 stop and then finish really well. Ooh, yellow flag.
Yellow flag for one of the Haas's. Looks like Jason Pelter. He's actually about to be lapped here by the leaders. Duncan McCamick, though, already with his fuel light on, so he may not be able to keep pushing to keep up with Peter here. They're both about the time when they should be wanting to change those tires, but not wanting to give up the track position here as Bob picks up a 3-second penalty. But yeah, Duncan's fuel light on. I wonder if he was gambling on a safety car and has just been pushing so hard that fuel strategy is not going to work out in his favor. Unfortunately, you can't refuel these cars mid-race, so it may just be what it is for him. Hunter J picks up another 3-second penalty for going off track. Let's see what our leaders do here. Peter Giordano, does he stay out? He goes into the pits quickly. Oh, so Duncan's going to go ahead and try to lead a lap of the race. Razor goes into the pits. Ian Krager is probably going to chase the opportunity to get a little bit of track position here, and he is going to stay out, as is Tom. Will Graham behind him, looking okay, not a problem there. So Peter and Razor are your first soft runners near the lead to go onto the medium tires. They're going to drop down to about P6 and P7, depending on where Bob is. Bob may be able to beat them across the line to the pits, but Bob's going to have to stop it. Well, no, Bob should be able to go about 16 laps here on those mediums.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he just extends to the very end. Honestly, it's like I said before. There's so much pressure to just stay out on the track and ride people's DRS that if you take a pit at the wrong time and go for this 2-stop strategy, then it could just ruin your entire race just because of how difficult it is to overtake on this track.
Really good defense from Hunter J on the hard tires. Pilon had the move as they went into Tamburello and thought better of it and backed out as Will Graham picks up a 3-second penalty. So Pilon's going to take his time, set this up here, knowing that he's got the better tires right now as far as the race tire, but also knowing that Hunter's got those penalties. Let's actually take a look at all the penalties now. So yeah, Hunter J with 11 seconds of penalties. 5 seconds of that will be served in the pit, so really he only has 6 seconds of penalty as he just absolutely lets Jack Pemberton fly by. What an amazing pass by Jack Pemberton. He actually just absolutely sent it around Pilon. I did not see that coming. Aqua Mineral is not a spot where you see a lot of overtaking, but Jack Pemberton with the big minerals there through Aqua Minerale.
Well, here's the moment of truth for Duncan. He's coming out of the pits right next to Peter, but he's not going to have the undercut.
It's like Ian has just lost his spot. Oh, Ian went into the pits. Okay. So let's take a look at Duncan and Razor behind. So effectively on track. So Tom is ahead from Will Graham right now. Good place. Oh, no, that's, was that a Jason Pelter ghosted there that they just went around? Yeah. Jason's ghosted. He's been lapped. Okay. So Will Graham got a Haas running up near the front. So Tom is in a similar position he was last week, where he was up near the front and he was going to try to run his tires all the way around, waiting for a safety car. He's got 13 laps on those mediums, so I think if you're Tom, your to-do here is to go in for a set of hards, because, man, I just don't know that you're going to make a set of mediums last that long, and a 2-stopper It's not what McLaren's wanting to do right now with 2 cars in the top 5.
Yeah, and for what we've seen so far in this race and the other 3 races, pardon me, from this weekend, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of moments where people will fly off the track and crash out. So safety cars just haven't happened basically the entire weekend so far. So trying to bet on that is just not a good bet.
We got some new users in the chat. Let's say hi to Caleb Brinkley, Trevor Phillips, Dom, lead card curse. You're right, Dom. Dom Inman, one of our Division 3 drivers, one of our marketing guys. Nice to see you in the chat.
Hold that thought though. Duncan actually came back out on soft, so he's going 2-stop, and he just passed Peter for the lead, or for the net lead, excuse me.
For the net lead. Wow, nice move from Duncan McCamick. I'm sorry, chat. I shouldn't pay attention to you. I should pay attention to the race. Isaac Godoy says, how do I join? There is a link down in the bottom of the description. You can join our Discord, stop by and holler at us, and we'll see if we can get you racing here pretty soon. Ian Krieger up to P7 coming out of the pits, goes around Hunter J. Ian on those fresh mediums, going to try to extend as long as he can. Can the mediums go 18 laps, or is that asking too much of them?
The mediums can go 18 laps is probably about where you'd want them to be, but you can take them longer. You can take them you could probably do 20 laps on them, but you would be right at the end of the race, you'd be in puncture territory. So you'd be over that 70% threshold.
You gotta wonder what Tom's thinking here. Got a pretty good gap to Duncan. Looks like he just lapped Bronson Stafford. And so Tom is going to do the inverse he did last week. He's going to stop here, gets his 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's unfortunate. We've seen about 4 of those already. So I wonder if there's a little bit of code issue, or guys are just really pushing to get that last little 10th. As Duncan McCamick sets the fastest lap, inherits the lead of the race. Peter Giordano and Razor both passed Tom in the pits. So Tom is going to come out. Looks like about a net of P6. Let's see if John Ranger...
This is the crucial moment for Duncan in this race. Since he went out on softs for his first stop, he has to build as big as a gap as he possibly can to Peter. If he allows Peter to sit in his DRS, and the race is basically over. Peter can just stay out the rest of the race, and then just finish the race on really old tires, while Duncan has to box one more time.
So with 17 3/4 of a lap to go, Ian Krieger on the fresh mediums all the way back up to P7. Tom did barely just come out ahead of him. Tom will be on the faster tires on those softs, but Tom's going to have to stop again. I don't think you want to go 17 laps on those soft tires. I just don't think they're going to last.
It'd be really rough. It'd be the same situation as before, but probably even worse off, where you're at risk of a puncture at the end of the race if you're pushing hard enough.
Well, Siggy, if you're watching, this one's for you. We're going to go full cinematic here for just a minute and watch Razor and see if he can catch up here to Peter Giordano. And he does not. He gets really, really close. Gets within 4/10, but yeah, that's Peter's gonna have to watch out for that. Razor is a very quick driver. Peter is a very, very, very accomplished driver. He isn't always like the quickest, but he's very, very consistent. And as soon as I say something like that, something will happen. So I'm gonna stop talking about him. Jack Pemberton running up the back of the Hunter J. 2 of them were teammates in D1 for a while last season. Oh no, I'm sorry. Jack was with Alpine. But Jack Pemberton all over the back of Hunter J. Let's see. Pemberton has the tire advantage. The mediums are a little bit quicker. Usually the difference between the softs and the hards are about 7/10 a lap. And so about 3/10 faster on the mediums than the hards. But again, if you can get the tires in the window, you can get enough temperature in them. Some guys can make them work. And I'm not one of those guys. But we have seen some guys like Bob Loblaw make him work really well. Bronson's made him work before. Bronson hates the hards, but I've seen him make him work a couple times, and that may be his to do right now, being down to P18 and a lap down. If he wants to get back on the lead lap, he's got a lot of work to do as he goes back into the pits. Jack Pemberton runs really wide at the exit of the chicane, picks up another penalty, so not great news there. So right back on board with Razor. He's cut that down to 2/10 at the end of the DRS zone. So he and Peter are going to be having a fight galore all the way to the end. Jack Fletcher in Red Bull having a terrible time back in the back. Loses another position to Michael Scott on those hard tires. And talking to Duncan earlier this week, Duncan said they were running a really stable setup that it's almost impossible to spin in. But we've seen Joe Guron have a moment, seen Jack Fletcher have a couple of moments here. So wonder what's going on. Maybe there's a little difference in setup. He forgot to put his setup on. So disappointing for Jack Fletcher.
Yeah, it seems like all the Hondas except for Duncan at this point have all spun at the same place. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know what turn is worse. Aqua Minerale turn 14 or turn 12 here, or turn 8 at Portimao.
Ooh.
Both of those just turn your car into a spinning top. So
And they're both that weird up hand and right at the same time, and you have to be late on the throttle. You think you can get on the throttle early, but you find out quickly that turn has other ideas for you.
Yeah, the elevation changes in this game make cars really bizarre, and you have to really practice it a lot to really kind of get a feel for it. You know, one thing I think that Peter is kind of making a mistake here is just blowing all of his battery.
Yeah, he's recharging on the straight. He's decided he's just going to let Razor on by. So,
well, I mean,
little Olay defense.
At this point, it's not about defense. Since you're behind Duncan and you have a pretty significant gap between the rest of the field with you and Razor, at this point, they should be thinking about working together. I mean, he is doing the right thing in terms of dumping his battery. But what they should be doing at this point is basically acting like pseudo teammates, where they both want to catch the leader, but they should both just basically try to sit in each other's DRS. The leader should drain their battery while the other one follows in DRS, and then they'll swap while the other one recharges and drains battery, and they do that until they just close the interval to the leader.
So interesting thing of note, 2-3 is McLaren Alpine, 6-7 is Alpine McLaren, and both of those cars just inverted positions at the end of the DRS zone. So that right now is the battle of constructors for points here, with all four of those drivers in the top 10. So round out our top 10 here: Duncan McCamick, Razor, Peter Giordano, Bob Loblaw in the Ferrari, John Ranger in the Alfa Romeo, Ian Krager, Tom Hunter J, Jack Pemberton, Will Graham in the Haas in P10.
Man, there's so much space between all the cars right now. Only 3 people within DRS intervals right now. There it is, like I mentioned. There's Peter going to pass Razor on this lap, benefit from DRS, and then they'll do the exact same thing on a lap or two again.
Razor with the massive battery advantage, nearly 3 times the amount of ERS remaining. As we watch Peter's recharge light. He'll come on again here in the braking zone, and we're going to see that for probably most of the lap. He's going to try to regenerate and recharge that battery to put up something of a defense, but like you said, like, not a great idea.
I don't think. Yeah, he has no thoughts about defense. At the same time, Razor doesn't have any ideas of taking a pass here, because to pass somebody outside the DRS straight with equal tires and equal pace, it's just not going to happen. So Peter's just going to save his battery till they get on the straight, invert positions with Razor again, and then follow him on the DRS in the next lap, just to try to keep that interval low between Duncan. Because right now, they're in a really good spot, because Duncan's interval isn't big enough to force them to have to either box again or push really hard to try to keep up with him, so that to kind of not allow him to just be able to pit again and then just have the lead the rest of the race.
So interesting.
So Duncan,
interesting move there from Razor to actually pull out of the slipstream and then back into it. I don't know, maybe he's having a little bit of tire heat issue there, but just easily around Peter. So yeah, we're just going to see them flip-flop in the DRS for the rest of the race, it looks like.
Did I see rain? Am I seeing rain right now?
Well, we do.
I am seeing rain.
Remember, I brought that up at the beginning of the broadcast.
You did.
30 minutes into the session, 28% chance of rain, and we are about there. At the 45 minutes mark of the session, it goes up to 70 and then 90%. So we could see the last 5 or 10 laps here under full wet conditions, and that changes everything. My driver to watch then is Razor, because Razor does a lot of wet practice. Hunter J, great in the rain. So we may see a big change here in our top 10 if that rain does start to fall like we think it might.
Yeah, Razor has shown to be a very consistent wet race driver. But I think the biggest thing also is that suddenly the pit strategies change. So now Duncan actually has an opportunity to stay in the race lead because of the weather, rather than having to pit and then try to catch up with his 2-stop strategy. Everyone at some point may have to pit, so he might just be riding the sauce until it's time for until DRS is disabled and everyone has to swap.
So Bronson Stafford, lap down, picks up a 3-second time penalty. Bronson's probably right there at that point where he's had enough. It's really, really shocking to see him near the rear like that. Bronson's a great driver, just no matter what he's driving. John Ranger goes into the pit. So is this going to be our first person to put on a set of inners I don't see enough rain on the track. I don't see any rooster tails yet. I don't think it's time. He's only got 9 laps on the mediums. I think you stay out a couple more. He is actually going to the inners.
Yeah.
All right, very interesting. Will Graham coming into the pits gets a 5-second penalty. Let's see who else coming to the pits. Damien.
Oh, Ian spun.
And he's missing his front wing, and he has over half the track to come around. So it might actually work out nicely for him because he was probably going to have to come in anyway. And is that a John Pilon around? Pilon had a moment. Local yellow only for him. We've got a McLaren stopped on track of Tom. Tom has spun and lost it. So it's getting wet. It's getting treacherous out there, folks. So right now, John Ranger, Will Graham, Travis Robinson, Joel Garon, Victor Diaz, Michael Scott already into the pits on the inners. Zebra Strike also into the pit on the inners. So these folks are going to have the advantage right now as we are at that crossover point where the slicks are getting dangerous for some of our really talented drivers that know how to handle the wet conditions. It's just that quick little bit of rain. Now you're in a greasy track. DRS has been disabled, so we are in full wet conditions. This is the time that you definitely need to come in. Duncan McCamick goes in. Also picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So Razor and Peter Giordano have got to be happy here. And right now, if I were a betting man, I would say that this is Razor Senna's race to lose.
Yeah, dude, the track, we spoke too soon. It's what the conditions change so fast. Less than a half a lap, and next thing you know, we're like, oh, it's not that dry, or it's not that wet yet. Boom, DRS disabled, and the track is completely drenched now.
So it looks like so far everybody's coming to the pits except for Tom, Ian, Damien, and Bronson Stafford, and everybody is going to the inters. Nobody thinking that it's full wet conditions. I'm not seeing any severe wet weather on my screen, so I don't think I don't think the wets make sense for anyone. But we every now and then we'll have one odd driver give it a try. We got is that John Pilon around?
I think it's Tom. I think Tom's. Oh, no, it wasn't Tom.
Somebody in sector 2. It looks red. I thought it was. No, it was Pilon.
Yeah, it was Pilon.
Yeah, Pilon did have a minute. So the French Canadian driver, he's also really good in the wet. That's one of the things last season when he and Razor were teammates. Wet weather races, man, you just counted on the two of them being up near the front in Division 2, previous teammates in Division 3. So we now have all the drivers in on the intermediate tires. Duncan McCamick does have a 6-second gap to Razor and Peter Giordano, 4/10, but no more DRS. So now it's going to be down to the battery and managing your line.
Yeah, at this point, it's basically Razor's race to lose. He's the only one in the lead that doesn't have a penalty, and he's still within that penalty window for Duncan. So all he has to do is stay within 8 seconds of Duncan, and as long as Peter doesn't create some miracle gap at the end of the race, then all he has to do is bring this one home and just not bring any penalties.
So right now, if the race were called at this moment, Razor would be your race winner. Duncan McCamick with 8 seconds of penalties. We assume he'll try to appeal one of them at least. If he does come back into the pits, he can serve that 5-second penalty, but how many spots do you lose doing that? Now you're in P8 instead of P1, P2, P3. No penalties for Razor, 5 seconds for Peter Giordano, 3 seconds for Bob Loblaw, 3 for Ranger, 11 seconds for Will Graham, 3 and 6 for Jack and Hunter, and then down the order, Ian, Tom, Damien, Jack Fletcher, John Pilon, Bronson Stafford, and Zebra Strike all wrecking the penalty club. Well, step away for half a second here, and we're going to check the chat, and it looks like things have swayed over in the chat. They no longer believe. No one believes that the Alpine can still pull off the 1-2, despite Ian going all the way last up to 7th place. Had a little spin. Now he's down to P12. Ian's a quick driver, but can he do it in the rain is the question.
Well, if he had an entire race duration, perhaps he could do that. But with only 9 laps to go, it's going to be really difficult. It would be a legendary push for him to get into podium position from here, because nobody else is going to be pitting the rest of the race unless the weather suddenly swings back the other way. But I don't know if I've ever seen that before in this game.
Well, I was trying to write up another poll real quick, and that poll failed. So just tell us in the chat while you're watching. Grab your device, grab your keyboard, come on in, and let us know. Do you think Duncan McCamick and Peter Giordano are going to be able to hold on to their podium positions?
I mean, Duncan's got it up to 7 seconds. I mean, he's losing some time now, but it's possible here. It seems like he gains a lot of time in the last sector of the track and then loses it a little bit in the first sector, but he might be able to do this. Look at that. He's only 3/10 away. Yeah, Razor's slowing down a lot.
Here they go through Aqua Minerale. They both hold on to it. We've got a local yellow. Please don't be Pilon. Please don't be Pilon. It is Pilon. So John Pilon having a very forgettable race. Being a Canadian driver, he does really well in the wet. One of his favorite tracks is Canada. I believe he won his home Grand Prix. Excellent street circuit driver. Does great in Singapore, Baku, Monaco. But yeah, just struggling here in Italy. And the folks of Alfa Romeo don't want to see that, especially Alfa Romeo being an Italian brand.
And there on this lap, Duncan pulled the gap to greater than 8 seconds now. So it's Razor is just struggling. I think he's trying to keep Peter behind him, and he's just having a lot of trouble doing that.
Jack Pemberton is all over the back of the Aston Martin of Hunter J. Hunter had a bit of a moment on the exit. Looks like we've got a... It's not Travis
Zebra
Robinson,
strike.
is it?
Yeah, Zebra strike went off again.
Okay. So keeping an eye on Jack Pemberton here. He is fully on the ERS. Hunter J is actually, I can't tell if it's his rain light or if he's recharging, but Jack Pemberton's trying to close this gap up. Slowly doing so. That must be his rain light that's on. He's not recharging right now. He's using up the battery as well.
Oh, yeah.
Pemberton with a little bit better exit here. He's keeping it close. But you got to be real careful in these conditions. It doesn't take much. As Ian picks up another spot up to P11, takes that spot from Victor Diaz. Victor's going to have a lot of work to do here if he wants to get big Mercedes points this week. So disappointment in the Red Bull garage. I think if you're Travis Robinson, only in P9 when you were in the top 4 in quali, and then Jack Fletcher with an uncharacteristic P16. Jack, we've gone on and on about what an accomplished and steady, reliable driver he is. You see him in the P5 range. Seems like every race it ended up P4 or P5 on track. Ian picks up another time penalty, and that's going to do it for his chances of trying to get up to all the way up to the front. But yeah, Jack having not a great time here. Will Graham looks like he's had a moment, and he gets overtaken by Travis. So as soon as I say something negative about the Red Bulls, Travis picks him up a spot on somebody else's mistake.
Peter and Razor going side by side into turn 2.
Just caught
Peter
the end
got
of
the position.
Yep.
Now it's up to Peter. If he can, for him to try to pull a 5-second gap on Razor is going to be quite the challenge, especially with only 5 laps to go.
Austin YT5, hey, thanks for stopping by and watching the stream tonight. Appreciate you subscribing. Go ahead and share it to all your friends, man. We're trying to get a good product for you here. We want to make sure you folks enjoy the race. We want to show off our drivers as we have a local yellow. Was that Zebra Strike again? Man, that poor guy. That Williams is just not working with him. It's working against him tonight. And man, I honestly, if it wasn't for that single point down in P20, one of the things we do here in Zoom Racing League that's different than a lot of other leagues is we do actually give points out for all 20 drivers that make it through. And if Zebra doesn't have damage here, I assume he's just going to retire in the pits. But man, that's a point lost to Williams if he does that. So we'll see what he does here as he pulls into the garage. And it is a front wing change.
Razor's having just a lot of struggles with his pace right now. He's falling behind Peter by quite a bit. And also Peter's doing a good job closing that gap that Razor wasn't able to close on Duncan. So he has a really good shot here of creating a gap between he and Razor. It's going to be really close, but he might have that opportunity to get that 5-second gap.
Well, the good news is, like you said, if Razor just keeps it within 5 seconds, which I think he's capable of doing, but I almost wonder if Peter didn't take a little sneak peek at the weather in a way that some other drivers did, and that's why he actually seems more stable right now through the wet.
That's possible, yeah. I mean, that's a good point because maybe he put more wings on, or perhaps he added wings in a pit stop where nobody else did, and so he's maybe doing a better job with that. Man, Razor's losing so much time, almost 2 seconds now.
Trying to watch gaps, see where there's some gains and losses. Will Graham's dropped down to P10. Lost spots to Travis Robinson and Joel Guron. So everybody's pretty spaced out. So even if the track did dry out in the next 4.5 laps, with pit stops, maybe people get bunched up. The thing you got to be worried about here, if you're a Duncan McCamick, Peter, or Razor, is a late safety car because somebody starts to push too hard because they want to make up a spot and it's just it's too wet to push yet. In Sector 3, Looks like Jack Pemberton picks up a penalty, and is that Damien that went around?
Zebra strike again.
Zebra strike again. Yeah, that's, man, poor guy. I feel real bad for Ryan. Yeah, bad times.
And I think at this point in the race, since we are on lap 29 now for the leaders, even if somebody were to, if there was like a 5-car pileup and 5 people all DNF at the same time, we're too late in the race for a safety car to actually come out.
Trying to see what, if anything, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of spots swapped around. Travis Robinson, it looks like, would easily promote into P7 over Jack Pemberton. Joe Guron, if he closes that gap up with the penalties, will also jump Jack Pemberton. That would move Jack Pemberton down 2 spots, all the way down to P9. Victor, if he can stay on the back of Ian, will move up a spot to P11. So you're still looking at potential 9-10 for Mercedes. And if I told you it was going to be a bad race for each of you, you're both going to have some moments, and it was going to be wet. I don't think you're unhappy with 9-10, but they sure would like to be up front.
Oh, yeah. But it does, I mean, barring any kind of moment from Duncan McCamick, he's going to win this race. He just has to kind of just bring it home as easy as he can at this point.
Right on board with Ian. He looks like he is hunting down Will Graham. Will Graham, defending for his life, picks up another time penalty. So if you're Ian, Will's got 14 seconds of penalty. You don't have to fight real hard here. And if you're Will, he's going to get that spot from you anyway. So best thing you can do is let him through. Don't fight the young kid. And then just tuck in behind him and try to get a little slipstream. Hunter J picks up another penalty. So right now, leader in the clubhouse in penalties is Will Graham. Hunter J with 9 seconds. And now Duncan McCamick has dropped all the way down to P3 in the penalty count. So P1 on the track, P3 in penalties. Duncan's trying to get all the podiums tonight.
Oh, man. You know, one thing to keep in mind when you were discussing the Ian and Will thing is on these wet tracks, when you have a significant pace advantage and you're able to pass, or at least go for passes in the middle parts of the track at Imola, you want to get past them as quickly as you can, because if you're trying to pass somebody with just slipstream and battery, going side by side into turn 1 is never fun on this track, because it's so, you have to brake so late, you have to take so much speed into those corners that if you're not 100% perfect, then you're going to touch one of those sausage curbs and you're just going to be bounced all the way to Venus or something like that. So
somebody we haven't talked about much, and he actually called me out on the Saturday morning stream, is Austin in the chat. We are a PC only league. These are all PC players. We have some other folks that play on other platforms, and so if you want to stick around in our Discord, we can get you hooked up with other people if you play on a different if you play on console. But Bob Loblaw, we haven't talked much about Bob and the Ferrari. He's a solid driver. He was a solid pick for Ferrari. I think they did really well getting him. And he's a really quick driver, has a more aggressive, loose, kind of throw the car around style. And so sometimes that doesn't pay off for him. And funny story, Division 1, Season 1, he actually forgot to use DRS for all of qualifying and all of the race, and couldn't figure out why he was so far off the pace. So luckily he's got that corrected, and is learning to manage his ERS a little bit better. But yeah, that Ferrari up in P4, good job, Bob.
Yeah, I've messed around with some of Bob's time trial setups. They always have really low rear wings relative to everybody else. So you have some nutty straight line speed, but then you also have a really unstable rear when you're going into turns like Aqua Minerale and things like that. And so you have to be really, really precise with your braking and your throttle, because when you don't have that extra rear downforce, the car just kind of flies around.
And yeah, another driver that sets his up similar to that is Josh Barnsley in Division 2. Josh Barnsley likes a really low wing. I believe it was last year at the Red Bull Ring, easy for me to say. We were looking around at people's setups, and he was running like 2 or 3 clicks lower wing than everyone else, and he would just murder you on the front straight, but then you'd catch him through the middle section of the track, and then he'd just run away from you again once he got down to the straight. And it was a really powerful setup for him, undrivable for some, just like you were talking with Bob's setups.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this track, if you're good at driving defensively, it's not a bad idea to do something like that on, because of the limited opportunities for overtaking. If you can just keep people behind you and then just blow them away down the straights over and over, and that's a pretty solid way of driving.
All right, folks, here it is. We are on the final lap. The leader is on his final lap, and we have all cars still active. Duncan takes it for the last time through the Variante Alta, down towards the straight, towards the speed trap, through the two Ravazzas, and he is going to take home his inaugural D3 win as that battery or fuel light is flashing red. He called it just right. Probably had to do some lift and coast. You go slower in the rain, but it's an AlphaTauri win. P1, Duncan McCamick. Penalties are not going to be the decider here for Peter Giordano. Peter Giordano will not take P1, nor will he take P2, because P2 is going to go to Razor on penalties. So Peter Giordano will move down to... No! Peter had just enough gap. He stayed in P2. Bob Loblaw will finish P4. John Ranger, Bronson picks up another 3-second penalty. John Ranger will come across P6, P5. Hunter J in P6. We assume he's going to lose that spot out to Travis Robinson potentially. Jack Pemberton is going to come across the line in P7. 6 seconds of penalties will come into play, so we're going to see Travis Robinson as he comes across the line move up a spot there to P7. Joel Guron will bring it home in P9. Ian doing the first to last to first challenge, fails in that endeavor, finishes P10. Will Graham P12. Damian Doe. Tom Jack Fletcher looks like he will be our next to last to cross the line. Yeah, he will be the last one to cross the line as Zebra Strike finishes a lap down. And shout out to Zebra Strike for sticking it out. Had a miserable race, got an early grid penalty. Nothing went his way, but he didn't quit. He didn't give up, and he does pick up the 1 point for Williams. As Jack Fletcher brings it home in P16, an absolutely disaster of a result for Red Bull. And so they're going to have a big team meeting after. So let's see who our driver of the day is. For me, I think it's got to be either Razor or Peter. I think the two of them battling back and forth, keeping it clean all through everything. And it's actually going to be Hunter J, the reserve driver for Aston Martin, wins your driver of the day. And that is going to do it for us here on a Sunday in Imola in the Zoom Racing League. We're going to get our top 3 in for interviews shortly. And man, that race had a lot going, didn't it?
Oh yeah, lots of spinning, tons of spinning. I'm not sure what the Division 2 race was like last night, because the only person that I could see spinning was myself. But am I crazy, or did Peter have a 5-second penalty, and then Razor was within 4 seconds at the end of the race, and then the gap changed to like 8 seconds or something at the end? That
was
also very strange.
Similar to what I thought I saw, but I thought. So Zebra Strike actually finishes 2 laps down. So Bronson Stafford finishes in P19, and wow, what an absolute crazy race. So we've already got our race winner, Duncan McCamick, in the waiting room. So we'll give him just a second here. So Adam, good job, Duncan. My wife, Angela Butler, in the chat watching. Honey, I appreciate you watching. You and the kids, I assume, are gathered up out there in the living room thinking, this is finally Dad's doing something interesting. So I appreciate you guys waiting. So waiting on Razor to jump into the waiting room. So we usually try to grab P3 first. And so the guy that is one of my favorite drivers in the wet, he's a Mercedes-powered driver in the McLaren. Really thought it was going to be a really easy race for you once it got wet, but kind of got stuck behind Peter there, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm not the actual Senna, so I can't do this shit.
So strategy-wise, I assume you guys were keeping an eye on the weather and knew that the rain was coming, and that's your advantage. So is that something you were kind of planning for at the first part of the race, or was it just all push and see what happens?
Yeah, as soon as I saw that the rain was coming in the end, I thought of going soft like Duncan, but I didn't think it was gonna work. I assumed that we were gonna finish the race on slicks, but yeah, it didn't went that way.
Well, it's still a podium. I know it's disappointing because you're here to win races, but man, really good drive, really clean driving from you and Peter. You guys are just swapping that DRS back and forth, and I know you're hoping to grab a gap, and then he catches right back up, and man, that's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, as soon as I saw that Duncan and Peter got 5 seconds from speeding the pit lane, I was so happy. Yeah, but Duncan just went away like a rocket ship, so yeah, props to him.
Well, next week, I believe you're our only Brazilian driver in Division 1, and I think it's your home Grand Prix next weekend, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's a track you really like. So we're going to see big things again next week.
Yeah, hopefully.
Awesome. All right, Razor. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
All right, so Razor Senna was P3, our two-time defending champ, who it looks like I just interrupted his interview with Duncan McCamick. So sorry, I'm more important than Duncan right now. You're just gonna have to put up with me. But man, really good battle with you and Razor up until the wet, and then we kind of made an assumption here. Razor's really good in the wet, but you were able to keep it ahead of him and start kind of closing that gap to Duncan. Tell us what that was like from your perspective.
So, great. I'm just gonna start from quality, I guess. Great quality. Me and Ian 1-2, barely separated. Super unfortunate for him in the race. Yeah, during the race, Jeff was telling me that race was going to come, towards that rain was going to come towards the end of the race. So I thought to myself, all right, I'll put on mediums, and then when the time comes, there'll be maybe 7 laps left, and I'll put on the wets. But it came out lap 22, something like that. So it came out way earlier than I thought. And then Duncan just got lucky with strategy. Well, not lucky. He made the right choice. He made the right choice of strategy. And then yeah, he just flew away. But I did a ton of wet setup, wet practice, and I made like a compromising setup. So that's probably what helped me in the rain.
Okay, so you had sort of a hybrid setup going for you.
Yeah.
That's a smart strategy. And I've talked to some of my guys about that. And I believe we'll probably hear the same thing from Duncan. One of the things that he's been preaching all week was having a stable setup, because we talked about, especially going through Aqua Minerale, it's so easy to lose it there if you don't have a stable setup going up that hill there at turn 12.
Yeah, exactly. I watched Ian and Travis lose it right in front of me there. So it's all about stability. Yeah, it was a good race from my point of view. Just could have been better. So a little bit disappointed, but we'll get him next week.
Absolutely. So big things from you and Ian in qualifying. Good finish for you. Not so great for Ian. So how you feeling about Brazil? Is that a track that you like?
Brazil is my favorite track on the calendar. So I'm very, very excited for it.
Perfect. All right,
also,
Peter.
I just want to say a disclaimer. Razor should have finished ahead of me. I'm not sure what happened.
What was the gap at the end? For us, we saw
it was
4
seconds. Yeah, 4. So that'll probably get cleared up unless I get my penalty cleared. But if it doesn't get cleared, then yeah, Razor deserves it. I don't want to gain a place like that.
As an admin and the boss of Mercedes, I'll just go ahead and let you know. Don't even put a ticket in. Your penalty's not getting cleared. So P3 for Peter Giordano, folks.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, Peter, thank you. All right, so I don't even want to talk to this guy right now because he is going to be miserable to deal with for the next week. Because
let's go
Honda Gang P1. Duncan McCamick. So the one thing you've been preaching, we had our we've been talking all week. We had our meeting on Saturday, our wake up with ZRL with me, you, and Adam, and the one thing you were preaching there was the stable setup. That the Honda setup was going to be a stable platform, and so as such, obviously, if it's stable in the dry, it's going to be good in the wet. And it looked like you had that thing on rails in the wet.
Absolutely, yeah, dude. It was so stable, man. This setup that we built this week, we all got to practice and we built it together. And like as a team, we put this thing together. And as you can see across all the divisions, we had a lot of success with it. So I thought I was gonna hate Imola, to be honest, but I cannot believe what just happened.
I want to read a quote to you.
Okay.
Duncan McCamick, 3 days ago. Bro, this track sucks. I'd rather do 100% Canada. Do you still feel the same right now? Would you rather be at Canada than winning at Imola?
I think Codemasters did this track very poorly, but dude, I think this track will always hold for what just happened. I think it'll always hold a special place in my heart. That was fucking awesome, man. Pardon my language.
No, hey, I understand it's your first win of season 3, your second win in ZRL. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and say I was not the fastest driver out there today, but I definitely got lucky with my strategy calls, and it was a complete gamble. But sometimes you have to get lucky. And going to the softs and praying for rain the whole time we did it, we were just like, rain, please come, please come, please come. We didn't know for sure.
Well, and speaking of prayers, we noticed early on in the race your yellow fuel light was on, and by the end the red was flashing. I'm sure you were praying that your fuel was going to make it to the end. How much did you have left there at the end?
Yeah, so we decided at the beginning to underfuel the car by 0.8 laps because we knew that Imola is pretty forgiving on the fuel and you can coast through a lot of the corners. But we took a little bit of a risk again because the rain was coming and underfueled by even more. And I'll be honest, if that rain didn't come, we weren't going to make it. So yeah, that rain was completely dependent upon my wind. So just complete luck. But we kept it stable and kept it on track, and it was enough to get it done.
All right, Frank, you got anything?
That was a great race, man. Being able to win that race with the 8-second penalties, that was a really great drive.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
the mistake we made was when it was wet, it was like hard to find your braking point coming into the pits. So we got 5-second penalty for that. It looked like Peter did the same thing. It was hard to get the car stopped. Kind of just slid into past the pit line, but we'll take it.
Yeah, there was
So
a
when
lot.
we were,
Go ahead, sorry.
we were talking to Peter, we asked him about what kind of setup modifications they did in anticipation for the rain. Did you guys do the same kind of thing before the race started?
I can't say too much, but yeah, we've got Joel Garone over on our team who he's, I don't know, kind of in this league. I would call him a rain god, and he's got some setup tips and tricks that we use over at the Honda side. So I don't know. We kind of try to keep that in Honda, but I guess that'll probably eventually get out. So not today though.
Fair enough.
All right, so you got a double podium tonight, so I'm proud of you. P1 on the track and P3 in penalties. So go celebrate, Duncan.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. So Frank, man, what a night. Imola, fun track, dangerous track. A lot of drivers that we expected to do well did not. A lot of guys struggled that you expect to do well, but that's just the nature of this beast, isn't it?
Yeah, this track, it was just I'm not sure. I think I'm surprised how many spins we saw in Division One. I mean, we saw quite a few in the other races, but it just seemed like everybody except for maybe a handful of drivers in this race spun out at one point or another.
Yeah, no safety cars, so that's good. Although, you know, who knows how that shakes out differently if it does happen, but it did not happen. So that is round 2 of Zoom Racing League in the books. We have conquered Silverstone, we have beat up Imola, and we are packing our bags and heading next week to Brazil. Hey, if you're still watching and you're still involved, like Campbell and Adam Klein and my son Comrade Rivas, the Epic Gentleman, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Make sure you like, subscribe. We'll have new content coming out this week. Saturday morning, it's Wake Up with ZRL. Friday night, actually, before that, we're going to have our Reserve Academy races. Those are generally streamed over on my Twitch. If you're in our Discord, you can find that there. And then Saturday night, Division 3 goes at 8 o'clock Eastern. Division 2 goes at 10 o'clock Eastern. You can see Big Mama Frank show up and show out in the Mercedes. And then Sunday night, we'll be right back here in Brazil for Division 1 to see if Honda Power dominates at Brazil at the Autodromo Carlos Pache. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we hope to see you again next week.